So essentially, whether you use a tool like ours or you do it on your own, what is essential is that you close the feedback loop so that you see continuous improvement in these behaviors. Meaning, if people told you something and they gave you the data, and now you're starting to see how exactly these behaviors are panning out in the team. You're starting to see when they are holding back, you're starting to see when they are not courageous, then it's imperative that you also do something about it. So even if you do it on your own without the help of any kind of software like ours, make sure that there's an actual closing of the feedback loop. So again, what are these behaviors that you need to keep an eye on? You have to make sure that people are speaking up, right? That they are giving input, and that they are always giving input. There's no instance in which they aren't courageously open. If they're voicing concerns, if they have fears, if they see mistakes, if they're offering opinions, they're offering ideas, obviously try and make sure that they keep being vulnerable. It's a very uncomfortable thing, and it's a difficult thing, and it's an esoteric thing, but there are exercises to help people get to that place where they feel that they can open up and they can risk that they are as open-hearted as others, and that most importantly, they stay feeling emotionally connected with each other, which is an extremely simple thing to do that seems to escape most teams. And then impression management that we've talked about before is the fear of the action of not speaking up for fear of appearing one of these things. Either we're afraid of looking like we don't know something, like we can't do something, like we're being a negative Nelly, or we're being disruptive or intrusive. Anytime we stop ourselves or bite our lip and we don't say something, that's when we engage in impression management. And when it happens, it lowers the good behaviors, and you get a lower psychological safety kind of overall situation in total. So these are examples of impression management. I'm going to go quick through them because, kind of these are screenshots of our software. A lot of them are public in our articles about impression management. But the point I'm making is when you start dissecting these behaviors and seeing them as singular behaviors, then you can start working on them, and you can start working on them at your own team level. And that is what the single most important thing you can do, so that you start lowering your human debt at your team level. So towards the title of this conversation, is it more dangerous than technical debt? I absolutely believe it is. You can have technical debt up to a point. I'm not sure exactly how much of it you can have until things start breaking horribly, but you can absolutely not fix it, and you can absolutely not have less of it if you don't work on the human debt that you keep acquiring. So if you don't keep an eager eye on the human debt all the time. Again, I'm going to go through these things really quickly because there's no point in spending time if you guys are going to read them afterwards. I do believe you're going to have the slides. But the big highlights here are you'll feel when you're lowering your human debt. You'll feel it. It's going to be quite clear because all of those tenets of agility are going to start feeling easier and feeling like you're getting to a place where they're not that difficult to do, just because you've had this team dynamic where you could show up as your own true self that's open and willing to speak up. So obviously we all can and should be doing something. When it comes to doing something at a team level, like I said, there are practical things we can and should be doing. Keep an eye on those things, start doing those actions, start doing those actual team actions, and you're going to start seeing results. When it comes to the organizational level, obviously it's less clear that we can do something, but we still can affect change. At the team level, again, make it a priority, make the human work, the looking at those things a priority, get it on the sprint, get it in tickets. Make sure you have the time and the resources. Literally plan that you take the time to do the human work. This is probably the biggest and hardest step, but it's a necessary one. If you're a team leader of any kind, coach people over the team level resistance, it's what we call it. You have most likely a number of people in the team that have shown up with good, true intentions to begin with, and then they have been institutionalized and clubbed over the head numerous times whenever they have attempted to be their true self. So they won't believe that it's the time where you want them to be open, you want them to be unprofessional and tell you their feelings. They will have trouble understanding that this is now a time where you're serious about this human work. So you're going to have to take the time to coach them over this team level resistance, which can last, months of sustained work, if not longer. To do that, rewarding and praising people for this hard people work is really important, and kind of doing so with enough empathy is important, because we all feel that it's hard, right? No one finds that people work horribly easy. I don't think anyone does, not even psychologists do. It's tough, it's hard, it's uncomfortable, but it's the most valuable thing people can do. And obviously doing this hard work and understanding that it's hard and finding ways to praise at least people, if not reward them for it, is extremely important. Whenever we hear ourselves or others do that BS/PR only rhetorics, it's a time to call it out. And I think it's really important we keep each other accountable that way. Keep measuring. Whether you have software like ours or you measure through kind of indicators that you've agreed on at the team level, it doesn't really matter as long as you keep believing that you need to measure. Obviously, an organizational level survey on the engagement of your team is absolutely worthless when it comes to this, because what you're trying to measure for is what is the behavior that my team is experiencing. What do we have as a dynamic? How do we behave? That's what you're measuring. You cannot do that with anything else but an understanding of what are the bits and pieces of behavior at your team level. Like I said, easier to do with software, but you can attempt to do it by hand as well. This impression management is a really good example. Once you understand impression management, and it's very easy to do, people connect with it and they can start catching themselves when they engage in this behavior, right? Anytime that they stop themselves from speaking up, they'll notice it. They might not say it, they might not necessarily act on it, but they'll start noticing they're doing it. And when they start noticing it, that's when they can kind of quench that behavior because they have the trigger. It's the basics of cognitive behavioral therapy, if you wish. Literally understand that you're doing it, see that trigger, and that behavior will start diminishing. And then doing it first, putting the people work at the beginning of your meeting, at the beginning of your retro, at the start of your conversations is the only way to do it. We've learned that the hard way. We obviously eat our own dog food, we use our own software at People Not Tech. Any time that we start retro with the actual operational side of the retro, if you wish, and we don't do any people action that's derived from our dashboard, that's a surefire time that we will not be doing our actual people to do, our ticket that has to do with the people work. So put it first.